What's up, everybody? It's your boy Kurt Billups. Now listen, this is today's self-care social by Yep Fitness, and what we're going to talk about today, y'all, is advocate health. Advocate health. And so what does that mean? So we hear a lot about advocating for each other. We hear a lot about advocating for health. But before we dig too deep into advocating or what advocating really looks like, let's talk about the areas, some of the areas that I want my community to pay very close attention to as it relates to advocating for health or advocating health. So areas that we want to advocate: community and environment. It is very important, y'all, that we understand the concept that communities are healthy and communities are strong. So when we see areas in our community where our opportunities in our community, where we can bring health initiatives in, where we can bring healthy food in, where we can bring movement and workshops in, we should be inviting these things into our community. These are ways for us to advocate within our local community to bring these type of information systems, education systems in to help us all better understand how to become healthy or how to practice health and stay out of disease. Other areas, we want to learn how to advocate in insurance. The insurance piece is a big one. When we talk about health insurance, I'm watching people now get stuck with bills. I'm watching people get in trouble with different payments and not understanding what options they have, what things are reimbursable, so that they're not caught with some crazy bill that they can't pay, that adds stress and anxiety to the system, which actually brings us out of health and into disease. So we need to talk about advocating insurance, and there's some great resources out there, and I'm going to be teaming up with some really knowledgeable people to talk about all of your options, to talk about all of the different care options you have under your plan. There are tons of options under your plan, care options, that some of us aren't utilizing because we just don't know that they're there. And the insurance companies, because they've got a big network to cover, they don't do the best job all the time of making sure that this information is out there, that people know that they have access to this. So what we've done is we've flushed it out. So we're going to be coming to you with some different advice, but in the meantime, look it up for yourself. In the meantime, start studying this stuff for yourself. Finding out what your plan entails, what coverages are under your family's plan, what coverages does your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your siblings, your children, what coverages do they have? The next thing we want to do is we want to talk advocating medical transportation. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but we know that people are getting stuck with hospital bills from medical transportation, visits to the emergency room. We know that people are getting stuck with airlift bills. And these are bills that are ranging in the thousands. I mean, literally $30,000, $40,000 that people are getting stuck with. So we want to talk about advocating in transportation and how to make sure or ensure that we don't put ourselves in a position where we're stuck with one of these ridiculous medical transportation bills that are almost impossible to pay for some families. When we talk about advocating, we want to advocate during doctor's visits. It's important, especially if you have a senior member. It is important that there is a family member that understands their health profile, accompanying them to the doctor visits. Now, I know especially in some communities, in my community, we're very cagey about our health background. But let me be honest with y'all. This level of ignorance and being cagey about your health background doesn't allow for family and friends to be proper advocates for you. So find someone that you trust in your family unit and share your health history with them. Share your health background, your health profile with them. Why? You're going to need, all of us will need an advocate one day. All of us will need an advocate one day as we navigate through the overall healthcare system. So make sure that there's someone in your life that you can lean into, that you can work with, that can help you not only understand your health profile, but be there for you when it's time to explain your situation to others, to other medical professionals and other healthcare workers. The other thing, we need to advocate when it comes down to hospital admissions. Listen, admissions are stressful for everybody. They're stressful on the patient side, and they're also stressful on the side of the caregiver, because they have to deal with countless numbers of people who are anxious and upset about the future or the prognosis or diagnosis of their loved one. So we gotta take it easy on each other a little bit. These are high stress situations. But when we are in that hospital admissions, it falls back on that doctor visit piece. Know your family, know your loved one's health profile. Be there to assist the healthcare professional in better understanding treatment history, diagnosis, and anything else you think may be pertinent to the care for your loved one. And the other thing we want to advocate is when it comes to pharmaceuticals. Listen, man, drug costs are completely just overwhelming families. So now as we start to talk about the healthcare crisis in its entirety, we cannot talk about the healthcare crisis without all of these pieces and include pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are hurting, especially families of color, tremendously. So again, going back to advocating through insurance, know your plan, know your provider, know what medications are available to you at super discounted prices, know what you're up against on medications that don't have an alternative, that don't have discount pricing, and then try to locate those alternatives. Align yourself with a good health care insurance company, a good health care insurance agent. I'm going to be introducing you guys to someone that I'm very fond of here shortly in upcoming videos. But at the end of the day, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, we need to advocate. Ask questions about those drugs that you're putting in your body. Here's the last one on advocating pharmaceuticals. All medications will come with some form of a side effect. And when you're putting something in your system, it is important to know how that drug, how that thing will interact with the nervous system in its entirety. I've seen people now, because they haven't really identified with their system, they're putting other things in addition to what's already in the biology, and it's not mixing well. It's not working out well. It's making them sicker. My dad just built up a resistance to antibiotics because he has chronic urinary tract infections. So what we had to do, we had to come up with alternative ways to boost his immune system. So my advocating for him was to sit his caregivers down and let them know we're not giving him any more antibiotics right now. The guy's got a resistance to it. We're not doing anything now but weakening his own ability to his natural immunities to build, and we're making him sick along the way. So what we did was we moved Dad to Demanos for the UTIs to give him a break from the pharmaceuticals. We put him on Demanos, which is a natural supplement that helps with regularity in the urinary tract system. And then guess what? We put him on a high dosage of vitamin C. Why? Because the vitamin C, guess what? It's going to help to boost his immune system. Remember, 85% of the activity of the immune system happens in the intestine. So it's happening in the gut microbiome. So what we're doing is repairing the gut, energizing the gut, feeding him with the Demanos to help with the urinary tract, the chronic urinary tract infections, and we're getting him boosted up with the vitamin C so that his own natural immunities can now have their place and do their job as we try to work out this whole antibiotic resistance that's been built up over years and years of pumping antibiotics into the man's system. So again, this is what I mean when I say advocating. No one can know your body better than you. No one can know your system better than you. And if you share what you know about you with someone you trust, they can become an amazing advocate for you along the way. Now, before we close, I want to remind us of this. Things that we want to have when it comes to advocating. Keys to advocating. We need to know in all of these areas, know what to ask. Some of us aren't asking the right questions. Some of us aren't asking any questions. And that's a fundamental flaw. That's a fundamental flaw. As a family member, as friends, as family, we are de facto advocates for our loved ones. We're de facto advocates for our children. We're de facto advocates for our parents. We're de facto advocates for our siblings. Now, you don't have to want that job, but that's your job. So we want to know what to ask. Now here's the thing. You got to know where to ask. Don't ask the plumber how to fix the electric. You got to go to the right people with the right questions. So in the medical world, there are countless specialists that deal in certain areas. Talk about that. Ask those questions. Find out where you should be asking your question, where you should be asking or directing your healthcare questions. Now, we got to know how to ask. This is important because this can be very complicated when we talk about the body and the genome and all the activity that happens within the system. And if we don't know how to properly frame a question or to properly articulate what's going on inside of us, what we're experiencing, sometimes it can be missed even by the best healthcare professionals. So I want you to get with family members, get with people you trust. Call Yep. Talk to one of our life coaches, talk to one of our self-care providers, and we'll help you flush out what is that thing that's bothering you, and then we'll help you formulate that question so you know what questions to ask. When you admit your family member, when you go to the hospital, have a list of questions that identify or help the healthcare worker to identify with your loved one's care up to that point. So you have to know how to ask. And lastly, you got to know who to ask. Again, there are specialists in every area. There are people that know more about certain situations than others because that's their particular field of study. So guess what? We got to know who to ask. So know what to ask, know where to ask, know how to ask, and know who to ask. And I mean do that across the board in every area that we should be advocating for health. And the last thing I want people to remember, the tips, things to remember. Remember, y'all, when we're dealing with each other, this is on the healthcare professional side. This is also dealing with community. As the patient or as the customer in the healthcare space. We all have to remember that there are gaps. There are huge gaps. There are gaps in education. There are gaps in language. There are gaps in syntax and semantics. We have gaps in our own culture. So when I come to your healthcare facility, remember that there may be these gaps existing and that I may not talk like you. I may not formulate my sentences the way you do, but I'm still a human being who is in need of your care. Family members, remember when you go into these situations, that nurse, that doctor, that healthcare provider, they may not talk like you. They may not put their words together the way that you do. They come from a different culture than you come from. But here's the thing. They are there because you are in need of care. So we all need to take a break and give each other some slack, cut each other some slack when it comes to how we interact with one another. There's a gap there on both sides. So let's take time back to sit back. Remember, as a de facto advocate, I'm connecting with the healthcare advocate, and our role is to bring this person or restore this person back to health. Is that right? Okay, now, here's the other one. We got to lead with compassion. Lead with compassionate care. If we can all learn to lead with compassionate care, we'll eliminate half of the tension that happens in these situations. And as healthcare professionals, you'll take less of this stuff home with you. So lead with compassionate care. Remember the gaps and lead with compassionate care. Because remember, the only reason you're there is because someone else needs your care. That's it. You're there because someone needs your care. And the last point, this is to all of us. when we're helping our family, when we're dealing with loved ones, when we're helping a friend out, anybody who's fallen out of health or come out of health and into disease, and we've decided to advocate or to step up and help. This is very important. We cannot help the sick by becoming sick ourselves. Let me say that again. We cannot help the sick by becoming sick ourselves. And so it is vitally important that as caregivers, as family members, as those that have been charged with the supervision and care of another life, that we maintain our health and our well-being at the highest level. Let me say that again. If you are in charge or in care of anybody other than yourself, and that is most of us in this world, it is vitally important that we keep our health at the highest level. Because guess what? We cannot help the sick if we become sick ourselves. That means our mental health needs to be in check, our gut health needs to be in check, and our physical health needs to be in check. All right? So listen, I hope that this video raises some question in the mind of what we can all do to become better advocates for ourselves and better advocates for our family. Until the next time, y'all be healthy. Y'all know how to find us. www.yetfitness.com. You can join online. I'll see y'all next time, man. Be healthy.